How did I get started in ethics and compliance? Per chance, like a lot of other people. It wasn't part of my career goals. In fact, it wasn't even a career I was aware existed. I was trained as an accountant and a financial auditor for large accounting firms. And at some point in my career, I was at a point where I was looking for something different to do. At the time, we had a senior leader who was championing the beginning of an ethics program, which was really going to be the first for the public accounting profession as a whole. Kind of surprising, but I could argue that that is true of the law firms as well. They took a long time to get on board of the things they were advocating to their clients. And he did all the right things. He formed a committee. He had the authority to really make this happen. He hired consultants and experts, including our beloved Mike Hoffman. And then at some point, the committee realized there's actually work to be done when you build an ethics and compliance program. You need to do things like create training programs and communications and codes of conduct and helplines. And so he was looking for what he, in his inimitable Boston accent, said, a junior partner to help him with beginning this program. And I was just by chance given the opportunity to work with him, knowing nothing about the field. And I decided to do it. And it was just such an amazing career opportunity because from there, he retired about a year later. I had the opportunity to build a team, build a program, globalize a program. I was at Coopers Lybrand at the time. 2 years later, we merged with PricewaterhouseCoopers and then became PricewaterhouseCoopers. PricewaterhouseCoopers had also begun building a program, but hadn't gotten as far as we had at Coopers Lybrand. And so we brought the two together and had the chance to build what was the first ethics program. We called it Ethics and Business Conduct program for the public accounting profession, which we were very proud of. And I will say, at some point, the other big accounting firms came along and said, you guys are doing this. Can you help us? How do we want to do this? And we thought long and hard about, is this a competitive advantage for us? Do we want to help our competitors? And we reached a conclusion pretty quickly that because this is good for the profession and maybe isn't really competitive advantage, but is something that if we help the other firms build their programs and guide them, then it rises the tide for everybody. And so that's what we did. Ethics, as you know, is a hard word for some people, and it implies morality and personal decision-making, and it has no place in the workplace in some people's minds. The more we thought about what we were doing, it was really about helping people guide their everyday behavior and decisions. It wasn't about telling them whether they're a moral person, not a moral person. So the business conduct piece resonated well, and also we knew we were eventually going to, or actually in short order, make this something that we went about on a global basis. And it was a little bit of an easier concept for people to understand the behavioral side of things, so that we called it ethics and business conduct. And it wasn't actually until several years later that we joined the ethics side of things, the behavioral side of things, and cultural side of things with the compliance efforts that were all already in place, many of which are very unique to public accounting, which we could get into, but that came later actually. We started with ethics here, there were compliance ethics efforts over there, and eventually they came together. So one of the things that, as we realized that the rest of the world wasn't particularly receptive to a bunch of Americans, and in some cases a bunch of American lawyers, of which I am not, telling them what to do in other countries wasn't going to fly. We realized, first of all, it had to be their own idea. They had to be hearing from people. Honestly, what I quickly realized is they can't hear somebody with a New Jersey accent or an American accent. They need to be hearing from people that have foreign accents that they believe understand that that the challenges around the world are not the same in the U.S. Because at the time, particularly, the U.S. was thought of as a hugely litigious environment. People were, suing people left and right for looking at you cross-eyed. I mean, for just about anything. And so I quickly enlisted a couple of folks from other countries to be my deputies. Gretchen, you know some of them. And it just so happened my first two were from South Africa in sequence, one after another. And just that fact alone, suddenly doors opened a little bit better. So when we talked to my colleagues in, many of whom were white males older than me. I mean, I was not as old as I am now when we started that. And so they weren't necessarily receptive until they heard from people from other parts of the world that these are not unique challenges to Americans. These are human behavior challenges in a very complex world, in a world that's gotten even more complex with over the past 20, 25 years. And so helping people do their best, be professionals, feel supported in a very complex world is a challenge that human beings have, not Americans have. So back to my goals and objectives, I quickly learned that the goal had to be not just roll out a program that was credible and that regulators, should they come along, would believe in, but that our leadership would truly believe in, not just lip service believe in. And that more than anything else, our people, the average 27-year-old, would feel like, you understand me and you understand the problems I have when I go to work every day and the pressures I feel, and you're helping me deal with those. We didn't necessarily believe that you could teach people through a computer. We were really worried about that. And so we took a long time and carefully chose a firm to work with that had never actually done ethics training before, but we really liked the way they understood what we were trying to do. And we rolled out some training where we did a couple things that were unconventional at the time. First, we started with some head-on issues that we know were real to our people. So the opening scene issue in the first ethics training we did was a scene involving pressure to eat time, which is a perennial issue in professional services. Not, work and don't report the time because you're not going to be able to bill the client, and you're going to get yelled at by your supervisor, and they're going to think you're stupid, and all these things. And so there's all kinds of reasons and pressures, self-imposed and put on you to not report all your time. And so we hit that issue head on. And we hit it on with a sort of humorous, Leave It to Beaver style black and white video of this young guy in a cardigan, and he says what he's uncomfortable with, and then his supervisor comes along and says, "You're right, you shouldn't do this, you're right, thank you for bringing it up." And the video then freezes, and it gets sort of frozen, and then somebody walks on and says, "Is that your world, really? Is that the world you really live in? Isn't it more like this?" And it goes to color, and it shows the real pressure that people see. And so we instantly, I think, people instantly opened up their receptivity to what they were about to do on a computer training, which was, by the way, 2 or 3 hours. And they instantly said, "You get me, you understand me." We introduced humor throughout it. The other thing that we did that I thought was unconventional for ethics training at the time was, of course, we did scenarios, which everybody did. And we really thought about the behavior we were trying for people to model in our organization. And the behavior was, if we wanted them to be able to recognize issues, obviously, and then what to do about those issues. Well, we wanted people to start to use the code of conduct, which at the time was brand new, as a tool, as a starting place. Can this code of conduct give me any guidance on what to do? But if not, to take it further and to talk to people. And so at each decision point, people had to consult the code of conduct. They also had to consult, they were required to, or they couldn't click through. They had to consult at least one other person. And in each decision point, they were given a choice of who to consult with. Now, in real life, I know who I consult with when I have a dilemma. It might not be somebody in my workplace. It might be my best friend. It might be my mother. It might be, well, some people have implied that mothers don't always give the best advice, but that's aside. It might be my spouse. It might be my kid. It might be my sibling. And so what we did at each of these decision points is we gave people 4 choices of people they could consult with. And in real life, you don't always get the best advice from the people you consult with. And you have to sort out whether that's the best advice, and you have to maybe get more advice. So that's what we did in this training, is we gave some bad advice. And so when they might click on their jogging buddy, and their jogging buddy might say, you know, don't do anything about it, sweep it under the rug. But it wasn't so obvious that you went, well, of course he's giving bad advice. It was the way real life happens. And we were really proud of that, because I think it really got people to understand that this is hard, and they have a responsibility, and they have resources to go to. I actually think a lot of the challenges that existed 20 or 30 years ago are still there, because they're so fundamental to human nature. And not to get political and societal, but things that are happening in our society, I think I worry about them undermining, for example, the courage of whistleblowers. The creating a culture where people are willing and take responsibility to speak up. I think that's in some ways become harder because the nature of work and the workforce has changed, so that we have fewer workplaces where people are physically face-to-face, which means people are not necessarily communicating face-to-face, which gives people different behavioral, I think, behaviors that are different than they might if they were having a conversation face-to-face with a person, whether it's online, whether it's social media, people that work in places that don't have workplaces. And I think those all create challenges around seeing issues, speaking up about issues, making it easier for people to look the other way because there's nobody they're looking at or not looking at. So I think some of those challenges remain, but they're changing.